Hello ladies and gentlemen, Mini Friginthia here and welcome back to MiniMug. Now, it's been a hectic couple of days for Nintendo news, and I just want to clarify a few things first of all. This is kind of a sequel video to the last video I did, which I'll put in an annotation in the description and hopefully in a title card somewhere in the area, about me talking about the SD card problem. I would also like to thank on a certain comment that asked a certain question asking, do you think Nintendo made the storage so low so they could, get more money off of consumers? And I don't... in the original comment I said, oh, definitely, that there's no way that they would do this without knowing they could get more money. And it was kind of clarified by what I was going to talk about, but two things. Number one, for those of you who don't know, Nintendo's main thing is lateral thinking of withered technology. They've always tried to find the best of what's been on the market for a little while. So I don't want to say that immediately this means that Nintendo have kind of gone off the rails and gone like, oh, we're going to make this storage space so cheap so that... I'm just going to move this here into actual frame. And this. Sorry about that. I don't think Nintendo would do that. Nintendo's business practices have either been always good or always bad. There's never an in-between. There's never like this in-between where people have gone, well, like this is Nintendo thing to do, when the other part is gone like, oh no, this is terrible, and they've kind of met in the middle. It's always either it's completely terrible or completely fine. It's weird with Nintendo, unfortunately. Now, today's main story is that SanDisk and Nintendo announced a little while ago that they were going to be working on a SD card that was going to be exclusive for the Nintendo Switch. It was going to be the memory card to get for Nintendo Switch owners. News about that finally came out. I think it was at the beginning of this week. And it wasn't good to start out with. Let's just say that for nothing. They basically said there's a 60 gig memory card and a 128 gigabyte card. These are standard SD cards, by the way. The problem that a lot of people had with it at the beginning was the price tag. And literally, just as I was about to do this video, the prices have changed to a little bit more understandable, but we will get back to that. The original prices of these SD cards, for seemingly no reason other than the fact that they have the Nintendo Switch logo on the SD card themselves, they were going for, the 60 gig one was going for $100 US, and the 128 gigabyte, it was going for $200. Now, I couldn't tell you exactly what that is in British pound sterling, but it wasn't the cheapest option, let me just put it that way. And I couldn't seem to figure out what was going on here, because I did a little bit of research. I'm not exactly tech savvy, but I did a little bit of research. And these cards, yes, they're the best for rewritable data speed. But there's also ones that do similar data speeds, and there was really no reason for the thing to go to $100 and $200. There was absolutely no reason, other than at the time it seemed that SanDisk and Nintendo wanted to take your money. Now, this has since changed. I checked the SanDisk website literally 5 minutes before I started this episode, and this is subject to change, mind you, but I believe the 60 gig one was going for, what was it, $49.99, so that's $50, and the 128 was going for $80. Yeah, $90 US. Sorry, I have Gaming Geek Chic in the background kind of making sure that I get it right. I should have wrote it down. I have a notepad every time for these MiniMug episodes, but I keep forgetting to write it down on the thing. So these are more understandable prices. But once again, even SanDisk and even Samsung have done similar SD cards. And even though they're not exactly rewritable SD cards, sorry, microphone, even though they haven't got the exactly like the best data writing speed or whatever it is, the whole thing with them is, they're a lot cheaper. I've seen them go for 20, I've seen them go for 50. I think the most expensive one on the market right now is the Samsung 256 gigabyte SD card, which was going for $150, I think. So that was about, what was it, 125 pounds, somewhere around that area. That's the more expensive one. And the thing is that at the time I was going to mention that, look, you shouldn't get the Nintendo Switch SD cards because there's cheaper options on the market. But seeing that SanDisk and Nintendo have obviously reached an agreement where it's going to be cheaper anyway, that's brilliant. But I still don't think you need to buy the Nintendo Switch options because, as I've said, I checked up on the internet and there are ones that do very similar data writing speeds for sometimes more storage for cheaper. Now, I wouldn't suggest you go out and immediately go get the Samsung, like the Samsung 256 gigabyte. That really depends on how AAA games are going to handle their storage in the future. And also, it really depends on what titles you're going to be getting for your Nintendo Switch. If you are like somebody who got the Wii U, and you bought mostly Nintendo titles, it shouldn't be too bad. Maybe in the future Nintendo will make a game that exceeds the amount of storage that can be used on these cartridges. But here's the thing, as well, about that I meant to say, is that a lot of people do complain about the downloading on physical games, but you got to think about the fact that these are Blu-ray disc games being ported over to a tiny little cartridge. Phenomenal cosmic power, itty bitty living space. That's exactly what is going on here. And yeah, it sucks that we have to pour more money into the Nintendo Switch, where essentially some people don't exactly want to do. They don't want to have to go out and spend another 150 quid just so they could download all of their games, all of the data for those games, all the DLC for games and indie titles. They don't want to do that. And for the most part, indie titles aren't terribly huge. Even, I think it was Mario Odyssey, had quite a small storage size, seeing how big, even considering how big the game was. But I know there's going to be people, going back to the topic at hand, I know there's going to be people who don't really understand the Nintendo, just don't understand electronics as much as some other people, and will think that the only way they can store their games is on a Nintendo Switch specific SD card, where that is not the case. I have one in my Switch, it's only a 10 gig one, but it's still better than going out and getting like a £500 SD card. So I would say check your options. Don't go for anything that is low brand, but don't go for the Nintendo ones. As far as I can tell, unless they go extremely cheap for whatever reason, there is no reason whatsoever that you need to get the Nintendo Switch options. Even I, as a Nintendo fan who's bought nearly everything to do with the Nintendo Switch and near enough unboxed everything on this channel, I will not be getting these SD cards. They're a waste of money, in my opinion, for literally a Nintendo Switch logo. Once again, it's good on Nintendo that they were able to put the price down. But seriously, if they didn't put the price down literally 5 minutes before I started this video, I would have been changing my tune a lot on this video. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this has been an episode on MiniMug discussing the SanDisk and Nintendo SD cards. Do not bother until a price drop. Until next time, guys, Mini Progynthia out.